Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we are a week removed from the latest balance patch in Hearthstone, and I thought it'd be a good time to give you guys updated deck lists to climb to Legend, whether it be standard or wild, because things have gotten further refined, some new decks have been figured out, and it's just a lot of fun right now, at least for me, as I've been talking about playing Hearthstone. So again, thought I'd recommend some decks, and of course, if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below, give the video a like as it helps the channel out a lot. And I will note, Winter Championships, which begin tomorrow, which we'll talk about tomorrow, where there will be drops and stuff. Every class has been brought to that championship except for Deathlight. Deathlight is the only class that's not being brought, but we will have a couple Deathlight decks that you can consider, but definitely on the lower end. So starting off, obviously no Minion Demon Hunter, one of the best decks, if not the best deck in the format right now, all because of the Eternal Hold. This card is absolutely insane, and I imagine whenever we do get a next balance patch, it might be one of the cards that gets hit. And we'll talk about potential balance patches or balance changes maybe next week after the championships, but I don't think we need a ton of changes. But yeah, Eternal Hold, definitely pretty ridiculous that a 6-mana card has the mulligan win rate it has. Of course, Hounds of Fury can be really good. People have just figured out that Horn of Feasting is just a really good card. It's like in pretty much every Demon Hunter deck now. It's decent removal. It could even be cycle with like Brock Cigar's Last Stand, which is also a pretty incredible card. Some versions run Nespera, some don't. I'm going to recommend the one that don't, just because it typically isn't as needed, but you certainly could consider if you want to run that card. And the rest, just a lot of good cheap spells that can remove, push damage, develop board, draw cards. Pretty fun deck, and you can even do like your win con of alternate win con of getting Brock Cigar, double lasting legacy, and effectively OTKing with that card alone. So very good deck, very popular, just can get countered in particular by rogues putting in King Lane into your deck, although that doesn't always work, or just egg decks in general, which we have unfortunately a couple I'll recommend, but I gotta recommend what is working. Herald Rogue, arguably the other best deck out there, doing really well. There's so many different versions of it. I'm gonna go with this version, which has one Envoy of the End, double 1-drops in Agents of the Old Ones and Spy Mistress. Some people have run Glacial Shards, some people just want the better statted Minion. You have Foxy Fraud and Flashback, which can be absurd in the opening hand, not so much otherwise. And of course, your Heralds and Rite of Twilight, the recently buffed Maniacal Follower, and, you know, removal like Opu the Unseen, Sinestra for crazy value, possible OTKing, and then controlling the board with Narlax Twilight Mistress. Really, really fun deck to play. Can be a bit maddening to face when they're randoming you or just clear your board with dragons, but overall, one of my favorite rogue decks in years, and one that I'm definitely going to keep on playing. Dragon Warrior, I've seen lists, and I'm going to recommend it as it's performing really well at Legend, top 1K, Diamond to Legend, running Chromie. Yes, Chromie, seeing play. I don't know if it's bait, but we're going to recommend it at least in this video, where you have this straight up dragons, no heralding, where, you know, cards like Prescient Slithertrick are just ridiculous against spell-based decks like Demon Hunter or the Druid that I like to play, which we'll talk about later, and been running like Twilight Egg, which you can Sanguine Depths, and it's more of a kind of enraged token style. You have like Torch and Slams, Eternal Toil, the Searing Fisher, so you've got some dragons in here, but not like a huge focus on it, like the pure dragon warrior. And then yeah, Chromie can just start, is like your one draw engine for all this stuff, and there's just not very good draw options for warrior in this style of things, so they're trying it out, and it seems like it's been working. So maybe you can finally get use of your Chromie if you want to give this deck a try, which looks to be relatively cheap too, right? It's mostly commons and rares. So yeah, if you have the cards, maybe give that one a go. Egg Warrior is really popular at top 1K Legend and does pretty well at Legend itself. To me, I just find egg decks to be the most boring thing in the world. It's the only thing you're ever doing with this deck is drawing your egg with like Holy Egg Burr, or just drawing the egg, destroying it a bunch of time, and you have like siphoning growth to do that. You have Torches, you have Shellnado, you have Decimation, you pop it, and then you can have damaged ones and Nablia and get even more eggs. And then of course, Endbringer Umbra, and that's it. You're just trying to win with a 2020 or a bunch of 2020s. There's nothing else this deck ever does. So your play pattern in terms of like being interesting is how you're removing the eggs while staying alive and clearing the board. But that's effectively it. An Acolyte is kind of your draw engine with all these whirlwind effects. End of Turn Paladin does appear to be the best Paladin deck out there, showing tier 1, tier 2 numbers where you have a bit of early game, but what you really want to do is just hit Acceleration Aura with either the card itself or Treasure Gill. You also, of course, have like the location, Inspiring Maul to double those effects, and then you can get some value, some holy spells, Spearheart Sentry, but the big one is Torith and Nozdormu. Getting those unkillable minions together out there can be devastating, and Scalebreaker Bulwark can just clear the board, keep you ahead, and then you have the endgame Bomb of Gelbin. A bunch of auras can really snowball, and this deck doing really well at every rank bracket. We'll have another Paladin deck we'll go over that's not nearly as good, but has been popping off due to Clark, I think baiting people mostly into thinking it's some broken deck, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. We have Herald Shaman is still very good. It's not like tier 1 or anything, but it's like tier 2, tier 3. Some people are bringing it to the championships tomorrow, but again, another deck you just really want to curve out. It's really important with this deck. I feel like you really want to go first with your Egg or Vapor into your Heralds, and then you know Traxian, then you Deathwing or you Alakir, and win the game maybe through Muradin, High King's Hammer, and that hero power. But we've talked about this deck a lot already. It's pretty straightforward, but still running like Fly of the Firehawk, still running Skywall Sentinel despite them being nerfed, still worth it, and the deck does pretty well. Just be warned, yeah, if you don't curve out very well with it, it can be a struggle. My favorite deck so far lately has been Merithra Druid. If you've been watching my streams, we've either been winning 12 in a row or losing 12 in a row. I've had like 3 streaks like that already, where this deck is all about getting Acceleration Aura and Felwood Treant. That's what you want in your opener, and then you're off to the races with like Elise, Broodwatcher, Amir Dracilian, Twilight Time Reaver to try and neutralize boards. And if you could just get Wickerfang out early, that could just be game winning. I've gotten it out on like turn 3 where like Inventor or Acceleration or Coin Innervate out, you know, Wickerfang. It can be devastating. And then you have your late game of Merithra can give crazy dragons, or Fyrak could just sometimes scam. Shallow Dristle can create a bunch of threats, board clears. You can cycle in stuff into your own deck sometimes. And you can gain a ton of armor with the Underking to stay alive and get to that point, especially when you copy it up with like a Elise location. That can be a lot of sustainability. Really fun deck. It's just a very traditional style of ramp druid where you just go into big things and hope those big things can win. And a lot of the time it can. It can do a really good job. No Hand Hunter, the aggro hunter, really strong. It was very polarizing. Like it beats up on Rogue in particular, but gets beat up by like Control Priest or like AoE style of decks, or even my Druid deck can gain a bunch of armor and can compete with it. But yeah, spam a bunch of 1-drops, draw cards with your Arrow Retriever. You can play the Sisters because they're really good. Gen Curse King can become active if you have just a bunch of 1 cards or 3s because you don't have that many 2s. And yeah, Smork. Precise Shot can deal 5 damage sometimes, but that's basically it, where Confront the Tol'vir can just recast everything. Outright insane card. Not sure how it's 3 mana, but yes, quite an effective deck to say the least. Shatter Paladin's one of the new decks that have emerged. Clark's been really pushing this one, where you have your top end of Flight Maneuvers, all these cheap cards, buff them up, and yeah, hopefully win the game. It's like Tol'vir Hunter without the Tol'vir, and there is an interaction where if you have Flight Maneuvers in your opening hand, play Finn's Beyond Time, they will automatically be added back to your hand and combine, and then once, you know, the cards dissipate, you get to keep a fully shattered Flight Maneuvers. It's a weird interaction. I don't believe it's considered a bug. It is kind of intended the way it's working, so that can be quite the high roll. But overall, this is a deck that does pretty well against lower MMR stuff through Diamond, through Legend, but falls off hard once you get to higher ranks. So be aware of that. definitely more of like, I don't know, I call it like lower MMR bait, where it really punishes people playing more unrefined stuff. But once you get to the more competitive ranks, be aware it falls off pretty harshly, unlike the other Paladin deck that's just good at every kind of rank bracket. Control Priest is being brought to the championships, and Theo got to top 100 legend with this list. Also lost it, I will say, but it is showing decent numbers. Ancient of Yore has been put in now for some cycle, some armor gain. It's working out pretty well. Black Blood is definitely kept its spot as a buffed Colossal. Moonwell as well has been seeing play, and the idea of the deck, just remove everything, just stay alive. And you have the late game of Medivh the Hollowed, the location, but in particular Atiesh, when coupled with Ruby Sanctum and your upgraded cleric healing, you can do insane damage with flash heal and murder your opponent as well. So it actually has a lot going for it. It just needs, again, a bit more. Basically the worst cards are the imbue cards, and you got to just fill out the deck somehow. So Control Priest, I think, will be a major threat in the near future, but right now it's kind of at that bottom tier. Quest Mage, another popular deck, especially at High Legend. I see it quite a lot, where you're just spamming to complete the quest as fast as possible and then do stuff, pretty gross stuff with like Morchi, Treacherous Tormentor. Some people have been running Relic of Kings, some people running Techisaurus, but mainly it's the early curve is what you're looking for. Just all these cheap discovers, get it done quickly and try and scam. That's literally it. There's a bunch of different versions. None of them have an insane win rate, but I thought I'd highlight, I think this was one I saw someone bringing to the Winter Championship, so I thought I'd highlight that. And then yes, Death Knight is the class out there that's not being brought. But there are two decks you could consider playing. Unholy DK, just swarm the board. Hopefully something sticks for either Talanji's Last Stand, and then buff them up with Grave Strength for an insane burst damage. And late game, you got like Chow Down, which is a bunch of stats with Rush, which can be quite nice. You got Cycle and Remnant Rage. Not the most flexible deck, not super top tier, but if you're looking to play DK and an aggro strategy, you can do that. And Herald DK keeps hovering around like 45 to 50% depending on where you look at. We got the list here with like Sath of the Endbringer and Command Clause is like a board clear, and then you have your Heralds, you have your Onyxia. I don't think actually this does run Memoriam Manifest, so it is going for that late game win con of Onyxia and Rezzing and Rezzing and Rezzing. I don't know how else you're really winning, I guess. And Curator can fish out cards like Ultraxian, can fish out cards like Onyxia, but overall this deck, it struggles to stay alive with all the heralding. The mid game is not insane, definitely on the lower end of decks that I'm recommending, but I wanted to give a deck for every class to try and get there. And on that, Egg Warlock, I think one person's bringing it to Winter Championships. It's okay, but again, like the Warrior deck, it is literally just about eggs. So if you're facing a deck that silences or hexes, you're just kind of losing on the spot. But in that case, if you don't, you can play the egg, you can copy up, death rattles with it, with like Archdruid of Thorns. You can destroy it over and over with your Herald cards. And we have the Possessed Animancer Asphyxiodon high roll combo to try and stay alive. You cheat it out, you got a big taunt with Lifesteal, can be really good, and then you bring all your eggs back with Umbra, and you can Dissolving Ooze an egg and give something else plus 20 at some point. So again, very inflexible, kind of straightforward linear egg deck, but if you like that style and you want to play Warlock, that's basically the best I got for you, as no other Warlock deck is doing very well, at least in Standard. And yeah, we'll quickly go over Wild, where not much obviously has changed. Discard Warlock, still really good, especially with like Party Fiend and all the buffs, and then just discarding all your stuff, getting a giant Duke of Below, Chrono Clausing out things, and the new Oculist cheating out, whatever you want, whether it's one drops to do one drop thing, or, damage or draw. It's very good, very aggressive, and is going to be a mainstay in Wild apparently forever. Boar Warlock, also pretty degen, where you just really want to get to either Old Murkai, Elwyn Boar, basically play Blood Bloom, Bat Mask them, and with Old Murkai, that's just a lot of charge damage, you're killing your opponent, costs more to do that, But with Elwyn Boar, you get the Sword of 1,000 Truths, lock your opponent out, and win the game. Libram Paladin has been good forever, still really good, especially, you know, the buff cards a long time ago. Ever since they buffed Star Slicer and then reverted the Showdown in light prismatic beam changes, it's just been a really solid deck, and you can cycle through with Mimrodon and buff up a Chillblade champion with all your buffs and kill your opponent. Call to Arms Paladin, another really good deck. I like I'm recommending 4 decks here for 2 classes. Paladin and Warlock are really good. The format, Flight Maneuvers, has also found a home in Wild, where you have Boogie Down, you have Call to Arms just to flood that board with minions, and then you could couple it up with Crusader's Aura 2, and you got things like Web Lord, which could lock people out, Crab Rider, really annoying, or not Tunnel Trog, Iron Deep Trog, where if they have spells, you flood the board too, buff all that stuff up. Very good deck, very pretty gross thing to face. And lastly, Token Cycle Demon Hunter. Also, arguably, people are thinking it might be the best deck and played well, where you can draw your whole deck by like turns 3 and 4 with all these token cards. We have like the security, we get the pilot, the parachutes from patches, the pilot. You could draw with Feast of Souls, you could draw with Brock Cigar's Last Stand, cheat out your brutes, your Remnant of Rages, which could draw even more. The things you could do on like turns 2, 3, 4 are disgusting. We got Wings of Hate in here too, just for more tokens to kill off, trade off, you know, bring back, or not bring back, but, you know, draw with Feast of Souls and all these things. It's really nasty, but again, really effective. So there you go, decks to try and climb with. Probably our last deck recommendation video until we either get like a new event cards next week or a balance changes or whatever. But hopefully these decks work out for you. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.